American server. What I wonder about a lot of the Koreans is obviously when they're playing in their their GSL matches, they play maybe riskier builds or all English type builds to try and counter the meta game. And I wonder if they just played very, very safe here, not to risk any sort of silly losses. So in the upper right hand corner we have your blue Protoss Blaze. In the upper left hand corner we have your red Terran. He goes by the name of Christian here, but this is PoltPrime, the Korean professional. So should be a very, very interesting game. We do have the close spawn position here, so Banshee Harass, I think, at a Pult would be something that would be really, really tough for Blaze to deal with. He has this close location. It's always possible to proxy one and float it up into the rocks. Reaper play again. We didn't see in the last game we saw Kwai Rice using Reaper play against the Zerg player, but Reaper play against the Protoss player, especially if you get a quicker Reaper out, is certainly not an awful thing. If anything, it forces them to get a quick Stalker out, and it will provide great scouting information for the entire game. We do see Blaze choosing not to wall off. He's putting the pylon right here. This is obviously standard against a Terran player. It's usually better not to wall off. We do see PoltPrime doing the same thing over here, building the supply depot nice and tight against his command center. So what I was see was like, when is this gateway going to go down? Is Polt maybe going to do a 1-Rax expand? I'm told that the 1-Rax expand in TvP in Korea is quite popular right now. Using a bunker at the front, a lot of Korean Terrans are feeling pretty safe against that 1-Rax expand. We do see a 13 gateway going down out of Blaze, and he's going to send out that scouting probe pretty quickly. Out of Pult here, we do see the 12 racks. Wait and see if we have any gas. We do not see any gas going down quite for Pult yet, so I do believe this will probably be a 1 or 2 rack expand. I don't think this will be any early marine pressure, but it's possible he may just exert or push his superior micro skills, although, no offense to Blaze, I just sort of assume that Pult's probably going to have superior micro skills and maybe try to do some heavy marine pressure and end the game rather quickly. But as he's letting these minerals build up here, I do assume he's probably going to be throwing down a command center rather quickly. Outside of Blaze's base here, we do see he is just saturating his gas right now, throwing down a second pylon nice and tight towards his base. So the orbital command is coming, a marine is coming out, and I do think we're probably going to see and he is checking for any proxies or anything like that. Really, really smart. And he's throwing this supply depot down here right at the front of his base in case I guess he needs any sort of emergency wall off. Do see Marines coming out. I do think this is obviously going to be an expand build at this point. He's going to try and chase this scouting SCV away, or a scouting probe away rather. And he's going to send out a scouting SCV of his own to see what's going on over here in Blaze's base. We do see Blaze with the cybernetic score coming up. He is throwing down the gas on 21. Maybe perhaps a little bit later than normal, but that's not too abnormal. But it's not indicative of any super duper early tech. We do see the Marine coming down. He is throwing down the Pult is throwing down the command center here right at his natural. Really, really nice. He's going to be able to morph that orbital right away and get all sorts of extra energy. We do see the cybernetic score is finished with warp gate tech coming out right away and is using a chrono boost on that warp gate tech. We can see that he is saving up some chrono boost on his Nexus. I assume this for warp gate, and it might be indicative of an early gateway pressure, or perhaps he's just feeling a little bit nervous and wants to get some sentries out pretty quick in order to defend himself. We do see a gas now going down and already about 23 supply for Pult, and he is continuing to produce Marines and just lining them up here at the front of his base. He did get a lot of pretty good scouting information from his opponent. He can just click on the gases. He can see how long this gas has been up, how long this gas has been up, and then, based off those gas timings, figure out what he's going to be doing later in the game. Sentry count is another thing that's really important when you're evaluating Protoss gas timings. We do see one gateway. It looks like he is positioning himself for a second gateway right here. Yes, so this might be some sort of 3-gate expand. I think if it was a 4-gate, we would probably see the 3 gates go down around on 26 with the probes being cut, and the probes have not been cut yet. Pult is continuing to force out Marines here. His orbital is about to finish. He's taking his second gas right now, throwing down 2 more racks, continuing Marine production. And we can see, if we can check the APM, let's see what we're looking at here. So we can see out of both players, no one's spamming too hard right now. That's not too bad. And you can see he's throwing a bunker down at the front of his base, so he is going to feel pretty safe here. Throwing out a tech lab on his racks. I assume we might see a reactor and another tech lab on the other racks. Here, out of the Protoss player, we can see that it is going to be, I assume, a 3-gate expand build. We can see he is now chrono boosting out Hallucinate. It's a really great scouting tool for the Protoss player, and is warping in more sentries. So he's going to feel pretty safe here at the front of his base. I assume he'll be throwing down a Nexus here fairly soon. As the 3rd gateway does finish. You might want to throw a pylon down here in the low ground quick, and we can see that Pult is poking up here to see what's going on. Is going to see 3 sentries, and he missed the 4th sentry, but that will probably tell him, just based on the timing of the game and possibly the low gateway unit count, that not too much is coming. We can see that a Marauder is out, Stimpack is on the way, reactors are going down on the barracks, and the other 2 barracks do have tech labs on them. see constant SCV production, just such great macro. And we do see that this base is now beginning to be saturated, and he is nice little wall here. It's not going to allow if he does anything like a Dark Templar or something like that and he completes this wall. It's always really easy to just sit here and repair it while you throw up a turret or wait for a scan or some sort of detection or something like that. We see concussive shells is about halfway done. Stim is nearing halfway done. The Nexus does go down for our Protoss player. And we can see that he is throwing down a robotics facility. So we're seeing 3-gate expand into a robotics. He has had these gases saturated for a good time now. So as soon as he gets him up at the natural, he will be able to get some good tech going. And we can see that Polt is now continuing Marauder and Marine production. He's producing out of about 3 barracks right now. We can see this hallucinated Phoenix is going to come through for our Protoss player, and is going to see a lot of Polt space. Obviously, he's going to get perfect scouting information. It's essentially a free scout for some sentry energy and time to hallucinate, but that's all the information he really needed right there. He knows there's going to be a strong bio push. He probably, upon seeing the Marauders, will want to get out Immortals, and if the game does go into late stages, he's going to want to move to either High Templar or Colossi Tech. You can see that the Polt is throwing down a factory now. Stim is just about to be done. We might see some sort of Stim timing here to put pressure on the Protoss. Obviously, with the sentry count and good force fields, he could stay safe for quite a bit, but we can see his macro is slipping. Oh no, he's warping stuff in pretty well. He is throwing down a robotics bay off 2 base, so he is obviously going to go for some sort of Colossi Tech. I do think he needs to get an Immortal here if he wants to feel really safe. I think with the force fields and Immortal up here, he could feel pretty safe about himself, but on the other hand, on Shakuras, he might feel just pretty good about the fact that he's able to force field this off here. I do not think our Protoss player has an observer out. That is one thing he does want to get out of his robotics bay, I would think, just so he can keep an eye on Polt's army and know what he's doing. Polt over here we can see is throwing down a starport and a reactor. I assume the reactor is on the factory and will be swapped out for this starport. He is taking his 3rd gas now at his natural expansion and is continuing to produce this bio. We'll take a look at the harvester count. We can see that Polt is up by about 6 harvesters plus those mules, so he does have a bit of an economic lead. We can see the supply depots going down. I'm sending Marauder out just to see what's going on out here and see if it's safe to leave the base, and he might be thinking about doing some sort of stim timing. He's going to probably go and clear the towers with this, because usually a Protoss will hold the tower with a Zealot, and of course the Marauder with concussive shells can kite the Zealot all around, all day long. We do see another hallucinated Phoenix coming out. Perhaps he doesn't think it's important to get that Observer, because he does have the hallucinated Phoenix. He did not see any Tech Lab on a Stargate or anything, so he doesn't have to worry about any Banshee play, and so he's saving himself some gas. We do see a Colossus coming out. It's just over halfway done. The Thermal Lance just started. Obviously, it's going to be a little bit tough if he uses good force fields. He's going to need his Colossus while this bio comes out. If he uses good force fields, it may be tough for him to break through the Colossus. On the other hand, he is going to have the medevac, so he may be able to drop in the main while he's pressuring at the front here and create all sorts of havoc. We do see the factory is coming out here that is for scouting, and it does look like Polt is scouting around. He's making sure there are no proxy pylons. Ultra smart play, taking no chances whatsoever. Scouting up here to see if there is a 3rd base. Out of the Protoss player, we can see him. He's throwing down 2 more gateways. He does see the scan and instinctively backs up because he knows that usually means an attack is coming. And we do see the factory is floating. He's so smart, doesn't have to waste any more scans once he gets up here. He can float the factory in and see everything he needs to see. The infantry level 1 is about to finish. The medevacs are coming up behind it. This is going to be a really nice timing. We can see that he already has almost a 20 supply lead. The Protoss player is supply blocked. He does pick stuff up in the medevac, so I assume that he'll be dropping over here, and if he pulls his entire army to go up there and handle the drop, he might run the bio up here and try to snipe this Nexus, which of course +1 bio with all these Marauders and Marines and DPS is going to take down that Nexus rather quick. We can see 2 Vikings coming out for Polt, of course, to counter the Colossus. For the Protoss player, we do say, I think he's up to a total of 5 gates now. Nexus is coming, or I'm sorry, the factory is coming up to scout here. Thermal Lance did just finish. You see the drop coming down in the back of the base. At the same time, in the front of the base, he's threatening with these bio units, and we can see drops in the back of the base. If he pulls his entire army, he is going to be in trouble. We can see Polt is putting the factory up to see if he pulls his army. Protoss player is being indecisive. This is not going to be enough right now. We can see he's moving his army out. He might decide to go for a base trade, but he needs to get in here and kill this bio before it does any sort of damage. He needs to split his army up. His Colossus are completely exposed here on the cliff, and we can see that he sees the army is moving, and at the exact same time, this bio is going to move up. He might even elevate her into the main. The sentries, of course, are going to keep him out with the force fields. We're going to see the elevator main. Meanwhile, on the back of the base, he does see the Nexus, and the Nexus does go down, so he focuses that down while he's distracting him up here at the front. Brilliant play. Polt is obviously way ahead in the game now. Bio does so much damage. He needed to pull his army so much quicker than that. And we can see he is just going to pull back. So smart. No reason to risk your army. Just pull back, play safe. Your opponent is now massively, massively behind. You have about +1 armor is about to finish. You have Vikings about to come out. This army is scary and huge. He is up by about 40 supply at this point. We can see that the army for Blaze is coming out here. The Viking count isn't especially high for Polt, although he does now have 4 Vikings. But if he engages out in the open, he's going to have some trouble. The Protoss player is sort of just randomly moving throughout the map here. We can see him pushing up here. He doesn't have the Zealot legs or anything quite yet. We don't even see anything in production for the Protoss player. I don't know if he's waiting to throw down another Nexus or what, but obviously he needs to essentially win the game right now or destroy Polt's entire economy. We can see this. Look at the arc on Polt. He's coming around. The force fields are trying to keep the bio out, but he has completely flanked the army. There's absolutely nothing he can do. He's hiding around the back with the Marauders, taking out the Colossi. Look at this big, big arc, and we do see the GG from Blaze. Good game. Well played.